My name is Riley Dawson. I am 22 years old. The string lights in our backyard were supposed to look happy. They just looked like tiny fake stars. It was my brother Aiden's 20th birthday. He was, as always, the center of everything. My mother, Victoria, lifted her champagne glass. Her voice cut through the party chatter. A toast to our golden boy, Aiden, and to his sister, Riley, who will be buying him the new BMW he deserves. The guests laughed. They thought it was a cute family joke. I knew it wasn't. My stomach turned to ice. This was about my grandfather's trust fund. My money. I looked at my mother. My voice was quiet, but it felt loud. No. The laughter stopped. My father, Richard, was in front of me. His eyes were hard. What did you say? No, I said again. His hand cracked across my face. The sound was sharp. I tasted blood. The world spun, and then it went dark. The next time I woke up, I was in the emergency room. The next call my parents got wasn't from me, begging for forgiveness. It was from my lawyer. That's when everything changed. But before I tell you how everything flipped and subscribe, drop a comment, where are you watching from? Our house was a lie. From the street, it was perfect. 124 Willow Creek Drive. It was a big, white house with a green, perfect lawn. My father hired a service to trim the hedges into perfect, sharp squares. We had a big American flag on the porch. It looked like a picture from a magazine. It looked like a happy home. Inside was different. Inside was cold. It wasn't a comfortable home. It was a showpiece. We had a living room with white couches that no one was allowed to sit on. My mother, Victoria, kept them for guests. Our real lives happened in small, approved spaces. The kitchen was always clean. The floors were always polished. There was no clutter. There was no mess. There was no warmth. My family was built on image, not love. My father, Richard, ran our family like one of his construction projects. He built skyscrapers downtown. At home, he built walls. He had a blueprint for our lives. Emotions were not on the blueprint. He called them unnecessary distractions. He never yelled. He didn't need to. His voice was always low, flat, and final. Dinner was at 6 p.m., not 6:01. My grades had to be A's. A B was a failure of effort. He didn't ask what I wanted to be. He told me, "You will go into business. It's practical." He didn't see me. He saw a part of his plan, a piece that needed to be managed. My mother, Victoria, was in charge of the image. She was beautiful, elegant, and cruel. Her cruelty was quiet. She never raised her voice. She wrapped her insults in love and concern. When I was in high school, I was excited to go to a dance. I tried on a dress I loved. It was yellow. My mother smiled, a tight, thin smile. "Oh, Riley, that color. It makes your skin look so sallow." She tilted her head. "I'm only telling you because I love you. You don't want people to talk." I went back to my room and cried. I wore a gray dress she picked out. I always ended up wearing the gray dress. She was the one who controlled the social calendar. The charity dinners. The neighborhood parties. At these events, she was a different person. She was warm. She laughed. She touched people's arms. She would turn to me and hiss, "Smile, Riley. People are watching. Don't look so miserable." Then there was my brother, Aiden. Aiden was the legacy. He was the golden boy. He was the whole reason for the house, the parties, the image. He was 2 years younger than me, but he was always more important. He was the son, the one who would carry on the Hale name. When Aiden broke a window playing baseball, my father laughed. "He's got a strong arm. That's my boy." When I accidentally spilled a glass of milk, my mother sighed. "Riley, you are so clumsy. You need to be more careful." Aiden got the new car for his 16th birthday. I got the old family minivan. Aiden got praise for his B average. "He's so involved in sports," my mother would say. "He's a leader." I got a flat good for my straight A's. My job was simple. I existed to make them look good. I was the girl holding the spotlight steady, so it could shine on my brother. I was the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who never made a fuss. I was the backdrop. I learned to live in the silence. I learned to be invisible. I made myself small. I thought that if I was quiet enough, if I didn't ask for anything, I could avoid their disapproval. I was wrong. My silence wasn't peace. It was just a different kind of prison. The outside of our house had white walls and trimmed hedges. The inside was just as controlled. We were all playing parts in my father's blueprint and my mother's show. Aiden was the star. I was the stagehand, and I was getting very, very tired of holding the light. There was one person who saw me. My grandfather, Harold Rowan. He was my mother's father. He was nothing like them. He was warm. He smelled like old books and peppermint. He was a lawyer, but he wasn't a cold, hard man like my father. He had a laugh that shook his whole body. My mother thought he was unrefined. He thought she was a fool. He was right. When I was a little girl, he would sit me on his knee. "What are you thinking, Riley girl?" he would ask. Not what was I doing. What was I thinking? No one else ever asked me that. I told him about the stories in my head. He listened. He bought me my first journal. "Write it down, Riley," he said. "Your voice matters." He died when I was 18, just before I started college. It was the first time I really, truly cried. My parents were annoyed. "It's a funeral, Riley, not a performance," my mother whispered to me in the church. A week later, his lawyer called me. My parents insisted on being in the room. The lawyer, a kind man named Mr. Rowan, he had taken over my grandfather's firm, looked at me. "Your grandfather, Harold, left you something specific. He had left me a personal trust fund. It was just for me. It was not a small amount. It was enough money to be free. Enough to buy a small house. Enough to leave." My parents were furious. "A personal trust?" my father said after the lawyer left. His voice was tight. "That's divisive. He's trying to separate you from this family." "It's unnecessary," my mother said, her lips a thin white line. "Your grandfather always spoiled you. It's not appropriate for a girl your age to have that much." They didn't want me to have money. They wanted the family to have money, which meant they wanted the money. The terms of the trust were clear. I couldn't touch the main part until I was 25. But my parents were not the trustees. My grandfather was smart. He made Mr. Rowan the trustee. My parents only had the ability to co-sign on withdrawals for education and living expenses. For 4 years, they acted like the trust didn't exist. They paid my college tuition from their own accounts as a show of control. The trust just sat there. It was my secret, my escape plan. But they knew about it, and it bothered them. "Riley," my father would say at dinner, "we are thinking of remodeling the kitchen. A family investment. You should contribute from your fund. Riley, dear," my mother would say, "we are donating to the new hospital wing. It would be a wonderful gesture for you to contribute. From your grandfather's money." I always said no. I said I was saving it for my future. This made them angry. It was the one thing, the only thing, I had that they could not completely control. Then, Aiden's 20th birthday approached. Aiden wanted a BMW, a black 4 Series convertible. He talked about it constantly. He left pictures of it on the kitchen counter. He joked about it with my father. I assumed my father would just buy it for him. It's what he always did. One night, about a month before the party, we were at dinner. The silence was thick as usual. Just the sound of forks on plates. My father cleared his throat. "Aiden, your mother and I have decided on your birthday gift." Aiden looked up, a sly grin on his face. "Is it the BMW?" "It is," my mother said, smiling. Then she turned her smile to me. It felt like a trap. "And we have the most wonderful news. Riley is going to buy it for you." I froze. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. "What?" "It's a wonderful gesture," my mother continued, her voice smooth. "A sister supporting her brother. We'll use your trust fund. Your father and I have already discussed it with the bank. It's all arranged. You just need to sign the papers." I looked at my father. He was nodding, a stern look on his face. "It's a good use of the money, Riley. An investment in the family." I looked at Aiden. He was already celebrating. He raised his water glass. "To me. And to Riley's money." I put my fork down. My hands were shaking. "No." The word was so small. It felt like a rock I had just thrown through a window. Aiden's smile vanished. "What do you mean, no?" My mother's face tightened. "Riley, don't be selfish. This is for your brother." "It's my money," I said. My voice was shaking, but I said it. "My grandfather left it for me." "You are being disrespectful." My father's voice was a low growl. "Your grandfather was a foolish old man. We are your family. We decide how that money is used." "No," I said again. This time my voice was stronger. I stood up. My chair scraped on the floor. It sounded like a gunshot. "I'm not buying him a car." My father stood up. He was much taller than me. He pointed a finger at my face. "You will do this, Riley. You will not embarrass this family. I will have the papers on my desk tomorrow. You will sign them." I ran to my room. I locked the door. I could hear them yelling downstairs. My mother's high, angry voice. My father's low rumble. For the next month, they gave me the silent treatment. They acted like I didn't exist. They were waiting. They thought I would break. They thought I would choose peace and just give in. They were planning the party. They were planning the public announcement. They were planning to force me. The mask of our perfect family was cracking. And I was the one holding the hammer. My life was split in two. There was the Hale house, and there was the rest of the world. The rest of the world was my refuge. I worked part-time at the Millwood Public Library. It was an old, quiet building that smelled like paper and dust and floor wax. I loved it. It was the only place I felt calm. My job was simple. I checked books in. I checked books out. I pushed a cart and put books back on the shelves. I was surrounded by stories. Stories of people who were brave, people who fought back, people who escaped. My boss was Mrs. Kemp. She was an older woman with gray hair and kind, crinkled eyes. She didn't ask me about my family. She didn't ask me about my future. She just smiled when I came in. "Good afternoon, Riley," she'd say. "Glad to have you." I was seen. I was glad to have. At home, I was a ghost. At the library, I was a person. I was also in my last year at the local university. I wasn't in the business program my father wanted. I was in creative writing. It was my one small rebellion. He allowed it because he thought it was a soft, useless degree. He didn't care about it. But I did. My classes were my real education. I wrote stories about families with dark secrets. I wrote about girls who felt invisible. My professors liked my work. They said I had an honest voice. I didn't know how to tell them that I was just writing the truth. I was writing my own life, just with different names. Then my shift would end. My classes would be over. I would get into my old, rattling car. And I would drive home. The second I walked through the front door, I would disappear. Riley, the college student, the library worker, the writer, would vanish. I would become Riley, the servant. "Riley, I'm home," Aiden would yell from the living room. He'd be on the sofa, his shoes on the white coffee table, playing a video game. "Riley, get me a soda." "Riley, where's the remote?" "Find it." "Riley, my friends are coming over. Make sure we have chips. The good kind." He never said please. He never said thank you. He just gave orders. He was 20 years old, but he acted like a king. And I was his subject. I would get him the soda. I would find the remote. I would go to the store and buy the chips. Why? Because it was easier. It was the path of least resistance. A fight with Aiden meant he would complain to our mother. Our mother would then come to me. "Riley, why are you upsetting your brother? He's under so much pressure at school. You need to be more supportive." Supportive. That was their word for it. One afternoon, I was in the kitchen making snacks for Aiden's friends. I was invisible to them. They were talking about parties. Aiden was complaining about his C in an economics class. My mother walked in. She smiled at him, a bright, genuine smile I never received. "Don't worry about it, darling," she said, ruffling his hair. "You just have so much fire." She turned to me. I was cutting crusts off sandwiches like I was 5. "It's good you're so patient, Riley," she said, her voice flat. "Patience is a good background trait." A background trait. That's all I was. I was the beige wall. I was the boring carpet. I was the background so Aiden's fire could look brighter. So I learned to live in the background. I learned to avoid conflict. I made myself smaller and smaller. I stopped having opinions. "What do you want for dinner, Riley?" "Anything is fine." "Do you like this movie?" "It's okay." My no at the dinner table about the BMW had been a shock. To them, and to me. In the month leading up to the party, the house was a war zone of silence. My parents and I only spoke when we had to. "Pass the salt. Your mail is here." Aiden, on the other hand, was worse. He was arrogant. He knew my parents were on his side. He knew they were going to make me do it. He swaggered around the house. "Can't wait for my new car," he'd say, just loud enough for me to hear. "It's going to be black. Shiny." He'd bump into me in the hallway. "Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there, Riley." He was lying. He saw me. He just didn't care. I spent more time at the library. I took extra shifts. I sat in my car in the parking lot, just to avoid going home. I was reading a book my grandfather had given me. Inside the cover, he had written a note. I had read it 100 times. "Riley girl, don't let them make you small. Your voice is your own. Remember, if they ever make you choose between peace and dignity, choose dignity. Always choose dignity." I thought I was choosing peace. I thought by being quiet and agreeable, I was keeping the peace. But I wasn't. I was just letting them win. I had no peace. And I had no dignity. The party was in 2 days. I knew what they were planning. They were going to do it in public. They were going to corner me. In front of all their friends. They thought I would be too embarrassed to say no. They thought I would choose their peace over my dignity. My grandfather's words were in my head. Choose dignity. I didn't know what would happen. But I knew one thing. I was done being a background trait. The day of Aiden's 20th birthday was a performance. My father had rented a huge, white tent for the backyard. It looked like a wedding. There were caterers in black uniforms carrying trays of expensive food. There was a bartender mixing colorful drinks by the pool. String lights were draped from the trees. There were at least 100 people. My father's business partners, all in expensive suits, laughing too loudly. My mother's friends from her charity boards, all thin and wearing too much jewelry. And Aiden's friends from college, a loud, rowdy group that had already taken over the bar. The party was extravagant. It was a show. A demonstration of the Hale family's success. My role was to be the perfect, quiet daughter. I wore a simple blue dress. My mother had already looked at it and sighed. "It's a bit plain, Riley. But I suppose it's fine." Fine. The word that defined my life. I stayed on the edges. I smiled when people looked at me. "Oh, this is your daughter?" one of my father's partners asked. "I thought you only had the one boy." My father laughed. "No, this is Riley. She's the quiet one." I felt sick. My stomach was in a tight, cold knot. I knew the BMW conversation wasn't over. My parents hadn't spoken to me about it in weeks. That was worse. It meant their plan was set. I watched Aiden. He was the king. He was in the center of the yard, opening gifts. He got a new, expensive watch. He got gift cards for hundreds of dollars. He held each gift up, and his friends cheered. He was golden. I hid in the kitchen for a few minutes. I just needed to breathe. I thought about leaving. I could get in my car and just drive. Go to the library. Go to Mrs. Kemp's house. Go anywhere but here. But I knew I couldn't. This was my grandfather's money. This was my future. If I ran, they would take it. This was the moment. Choose dignity. I went back outside. A few minutes later, my mother stepped onto the patio. She tapped a champagne glass with a silver knife. Ting, ting, ting. The crowd went quiet. Everyone turned to her. My father stood beside her, beaming. He put his arm around Aiden, who was grinning, his face flushed. "Thank you all for coming," my mother said. Her voice was bright and clear. It carried across the lawn. "We are so proud to celebrate 20 wonderful years of our son, Aiden." People clapped. Aiden bowed his head, pretending to be humble. It made me sick. "He is smart, he is strong, and he is going to do amazing things," my mother continued. "And as his parents, Richard and I believe in supporting our children's dreams." She turned her head. Her eyes found me. I was standing by the big oak tree, near the back. The spotlight was now on me. "And we are so proud that his sister, Riley, feels the same way." Oh God, it was happening. Right here. Right now. Aiden has been working so hard, my mother said. And he's had his eye on a little something to get him to class. People laughed. A little something. "So let's raise our glasses," my mother said. She lifted her glass high. "A toast. To our golden boy, Aiden. And to his sister, Riley, who will be buying him the new BMW he deserves." The guests laughed and clapped. They thought it was a sweet, generous family joke. A rich kid problem. My father's business partners clapped him on the back. "Well done, Richard. Generous girl you've raised." They were all looking at me. My mother. My father. Aiden. All their friends. They were all smiling. Waiting for me to smile. To nod. To raise my glass. To be the good, quiet daughter. To be the background trait. My blood was roaring in my ears. I felt like I was outside my own body. I saw my mother's perfect smile. I saw my father's proud, arrogant look. I saw Aiden's greedy, triumphant grin. I looked right at my mother. My voice was quiet, but in the sudden silence, everyone heard it. "No!" The laughter stopped. A few people looked confused. My mother's smile froze. It didn't fade. It just froze. "What?" she whispered. Her voice was tight. Aiden's face turned red. "Riley, what are you doing? Stop it." My father's face went dark. He stepped off the patio. He started walking toward me. He moved slowly like a predator. "Riley," he said, his voice dangerously low. "We are not doing this here." "I'm not buying him a car," I said. My voice was shaking, but I said it. I said it to my father. I'm not using my trust for him. He was in front of me now. He was a big man. He blocked the party lights. "You are embarrassing me," he hissed. "You are stealing from me," I whispered. It was so fast. I didn't even see it coming. His hand. A blur. The sound was a crack. It was louder than any champagne glass. It echoed. My head snapped to the side. The force was incredible. It knocked me off my feet. I stumbled back, my head hitting the hard trunk of the oak tree. My face exploded. Pain. Sharp, burning pain. My ear was ringing. I could taste salt and copper. Blood. The party went completely, utterly silent. A woman gasped. Someone dropped a glass. It shattered. I slid down the trunk of the tree. I was holding my face. I was dizzy. The string lights were spinning. My mother was at my side in an instant. I thought for 1 second she was going to help me. She grabbed my arm. Her nails dug into my skin. Her face was white with rage. "Get up," she hissed. Her voice was a snake's. "Get up and smile, Riley. You're making a scene." A scene. I was on the ground. My face was bleeding. My father had just hit me. And she was worried about a scene. I looked past her. I saw my father. He wasn't looking at me. He was turning back to his guests. He was laughing. A short, nervous laugh. "A little family disagreement," he said, waving his hand. "You know how emotional daughters can be." I saw Aiden. He was just staring at me. His face wasn't concerned. It was angry. He was furious. "You ruined my party," he mouthed at me. "Smile, Riley," my mother hissed again, pulling my arm. "Smile now." He hit me," I whispered. My vision was going blurry. My head hurt. Not just my face. My head. I put my hand to the back of my head. It felt wet. I pulled it away. My fingers were dark. Blood. "I'm dizzy," I said. "Stop this," my mother said. "Stop this performance." The spinning got faster. The world was tilting. The last thing I saw was my mother's furious, perfect face. Then everything went black. The next time I opened my eyes, the lights were bright. Fluorescent. They hummed. I smelled bleach. I was on a hard bed. I was in a hospital. I was alone. The first thing I remember is a sound. A low, constant hum. The light was too bright, even with my eyes closed. It pushed against my eyelids. The second thing was the smell. Bleach and something sweet like old coffee. I opened my eyes. The light was from a long, fluorescent tube in the ceiling. The ceiling was made of white, stained tiles. "She's awake." A voice. A woman. I turned my head. The pain was immediate. A sharp, hot spike from my jaw up to my ear. I moaned. "Easy, honey. Don't move too fast." A nurse was standing next to me. She had kind eyes and a tired face. She was wearing blue scrubs. "Where?" My voice was a croak. My mouth was dry. My lip was fat. "You're at St. Jude's Hospital," she said. "You had a nasty fall. Do you remember what happened?" "A fall." That's what they must have told the paramedics. I remembered my father's hand. The crack. My mother's voice. "You're making a scene." I didn't answer. I didn't have a yes or no for that. I tried to sit up, but my head spun. The back of my head felt heavy and wet. "Whoa, hold on," the nurse said, putting a gentle hand on my shoulder. "You've got 6 stitches back there. You hit that tree trunk hard." She looked at my chart. "Says here you fainted. Is that right?" I looked at her. I couldn't form the words. I couldn't say, "My father hit me." It was the one rule of our family. You do not talk about family business. You do not air dirty laundry. I'm dizzy," I whispered. "I'm not surprised. The doctor said you have a severe concussion and a hairline fracture in your cheekbone. We'll need to keep you for a few hours, just to watch you." She was kind. She gave me a small cup of water with a straw. It hurt to drink. "Are your parents in the waiting room?" she asked, checking her chart again. "We tried calling the number on your ID, but no one answered." My stomach went cold. Of course they didn't answer. They weren't here. They hadn't come. I was on the ground, bleeding. They let me go. They probably watched the ambulance drive away, worried about what the neighbors would think. "No," I said. "They're not, they're busy." The nurse gave me a long look. It was a look I had never seen. It wasn't pity. It was knowing. "Okay, honey. Well, you'll need someone to drive you home. You can't be alone for the next 24 hours. Concussion protocol." She left. The curtain clicked shut. I was alone with the hum of the lights. A few minutes later, the curtain opened again. It wasn't the nurse. It was a police officer. She was tall, with her hair in a tight bun. Her name tag said Rivera. "Miss Hale?" she asked. Her voice was not warm. It was flat. Official. "Yes. I'm Officer Rivera. I was at the party. I was part of the noise complaint call." I just stared. A noise complaint? The paramedics who brought you in, they filed a report. They seemed to think your injuries were inconsistent with a simple fall. I didn't say anything. My heart was a hammer. "Miss Hale," she said, stepping closer. "I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to be honest. Did someone do this to you?" I looked at the white, scratchy blanket. I looked at the 4 in my hand. I thought of my father's face, dark with rage. I thought of my mother hissing smile. I fell. Officer Rivera sighed. She pulled out a small card. Look, I can't make you say anything. But the doctor's report says you were struck. On both sides of your head. Once by a hand, and once by a hard surface. She put the card on the small table next to my bed. That's my direct number. If you decide you fell into a fist, you call me. We can get you a safe place to go. She turned to leave. One more question. Do you feel safe going home, Miss Hale? I couldn't answer. The silence was the answer. She nodded and left. I was alone again. My phone was in a plastic bag on the table, next to the card. My purse. My keys. My head was throbbing. Do you feel safe? I pulled my phone out. The screen was cracked. Typical. I turned it on. One new text message. It was from Aiden. It wasn't, "Are you okay?" It wasn't, "Where are you?" It was one sentence. You ruined everything. You selfish bitch. You ruined my party. I read it once. Twice. 3 times. The words were blurry. I wasn't sure if it was the concussion or the tears. It wasn't tears. It was ice. Something inside me, the small, hopeful part that always waited for them to be different, it died. It just broke. I knew I couldn't go home. Officer Rivera was wrong. I didn't need a safe place to go. I needed to do something. My fingers were shaking. I scrolled through my contacts. Not my parents. Not my aunts or uncles. Not a single college friend. I stopped on a name. Mrs. Kemp. My boss at the library. It was 2 a.m. I pressed the call button. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was sleepy. Hello. Mrs. Kemp. My voice broke. It's Riley. Riley Hale. Riley? Honey, what's wrong? Are you okay? It's the middle of the night. I'm at the hospital, I cried. I couldn't stop it. The sobs just came out, ripped from my chest. I'm at St. Jude's. I can't go home. I don't have anyone. I'm on my way, she said. No questions. No judgment. Don't you move. I'm on my way. She was there in 20 minutes. She signed my discharge papers. She helped me into her old, warm car. She didn't ask what happened. She just looked at my bruised, swollen face and her lips got thin. We're not going to your house, she said. She took me to a motel. A cheap, clean place called the Sunburst. She paid for a room. In cash. You'll be safe here, she said, handing me the key card. She put a bag on the bed. I brought you some things from my house. A toothbrush. An old t-shirt. Some tea. Why are you? I whispered. Because, she said, patting my arm. You're a good girl, Riley. And no one deserves this. She looked at my laptop bag, which the nurse had given me with my purse. You rest. But you look like a smart girl. You figure out what you need to do. I'll check on you tomorrow. She left. I was alone in a strange room. It smelled like lemon cleaner. I locked the deadbolt. I sat on the bed. My body ached. But my mind was clear. Crystal clear. You ruined everything. Aiden's text. He was wrong. They had ruined everything. I opened my laptop. The screen was a comfort. I connected to the motel's slow Wi-Fi. I went to the website for my grandfather's trust. I logged in. My password was Harold Rowan 1945. My grandfather's birthday. My parents never would have guessed. I had never really looked at the full statements. Just the main balance. It was a lot. Tonight, I clicked on detailed statements. Last 4 years. I opened the file. And my blood ran cold. It wasn't my father planning to use my trust. It wasn't my mother suggesting I contribute. They had been stealing from me for 4 years. They were already doing it. I saw the withdrawals. Line after line. All co-signed by my father. All approved by him. August 2024. $15,000. Travel. Paris, France, my mother's trip with her friends. Daddy's treating me, she had said. May 2024. $35,000. Home improvement. Kitchen remodel, our new marble countertops. An investment in the family, my father had called it. December 2023. $10,000. Donation. Hale family contribution to the mayor's fund. The donation that got their picture in the local paper. On and on. Vacations. Jewelry. Payments to my father's construction company. Payments for Aiden's old car. The BMW wasn't the first time. It was just the first time they were arrogant enough to tell me. They were just going to make me sign the paper for a withdrawal I already knew about. They had been draining my grandfather's gift. My freedom. I wasn't just hurt. I wasn't just angry. I was cold. I opened my email. I found the address I had saved. Mr. Rowan. My grandfather's lawyer. The trustee. I attached the bank statements. All of them. I typed a new email. My fingers were steady. To Mr. Rowan. Subject: urgent, trust fund of Riley Hale. Dear Mr. Rowan, my parents, Richard and Victoria Hale, have been stealing from my trust fund. I have attached the proof. Tonight, at my brother's party, they announced I would be buying him a BMW. I refused. My father, Richard Hale, assaulted me. I am writing this from a motel room. I have a concussion and a fractured cheekbone. Aiden's text message to me was, "You ruined everything." He was right. I am done. I am not safe. My grandfather told me to choose dignity. I am choosing it. Please help me. Sincerely, Riley Hale. I hit send. The time on the laptop said 3:16 a.m. I stared at the screen. I didn't breathe. At 3:17 a.m., a new email popped up. From Mr. Rowan. Subject: urgent. Dear Riley, I've been waiting for this. Your grandfather always said you were the strong one. You did the right thing. Do not go home. Do not talk to them. Do not answer their calls. Be at my office at 9 a.m. We have work to do. P.S. Don't worry about the police. I'm handling that too. I closed the laptop. I turned off the light. I lay down on the hard motel bed. My face throbbed. My head pounded. I smiled. And I fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up to a face I didn't recognize. I was in the motel bathroom. The mirror was old with black spots on the edges. The light was a buzzing yellow bulb. The left side of my face was a map of new colors. Purple. Yellow. A dark, ugly green. My lip was split and swollen. My left eye was almost swollen shut. The back of my hair was matted and stiff with dried blood. I looked like a victim. I was a victim. But I had never felt less like one. I took the longest, hottest shower of my life. I stood under the water until my skin was red. I used the tiny, paper-wrapped bar of motel soap. I scrubbed my skin, trying to wash the house off me. The smell of it. The feel of it. I focused on my hair. The blood was hard. I had to pick it out. It was disgusting. I watched the water turn pink and brown. I watched it circle the drain. I imagined it was my old life. My silence. My fear. All of it going down, down, down. I washed it all away. When I stepped out, I felt new. I felt raw. But I felt clean. Mrs. Kemp met me in the lobby at 8:30. She had a bag with a clean, old sweater and a pair of jeans. They're from the library's Lost and Found, she said. Washed them this morning. Thank you, I said. My voice was raspy. She drove me to a tall, glass building downtown. Rowan, Finch and Associates, the sign said. Are you going to be okay? She asked. Yes, I said. I think I am. I walked in. Mr. Rowan was nothing like my grandfather. He was young. He wore a sharp gray suit. He had a hard, square jaw and eyes that looked like they missed nothing. He saw my face. His expression didn't change, but his eyes got colder. Miss Hale, he said. Riley, I'm sorry we're meeting like this. But I'm glad we are meeting. He took me into a conference room. It was high up. I could see the whole city. Your grandfather was a very, very smart man, Mr. Rowan said, sitting across from me. He had a stack of papers. He loved you very much. He also did not trust your parents. At all. He put a clause in your trust. I call it the hardship clause. He made me the sole trustee with a very specific instruction. If I, the trustee, determined that you were in physical, emotional, or financial danger, especially from your parents, all restrictions on the trust would be dissolved. The age 25 rule would vanish. The trust would become yours. Completely. Immediately. He slid a paper across the table. I made that determination at 3:18 a.m. My hand was shaking. What does this mean? It means, he said, that as of 9:01 a.m. this morning, you are a very wealthy woman, and your parents have been completely and totally cut off. Their cosigner status is gone. Their access is gone. I started to cry. Quietly. They took so much. Yes, they did, he said. He pushed a second file toward me. This is a preliminary report from our forensic accountant. I had him start at 4 a.m. They stole, by our current estimate, $430,000 from you over 4 years. I gasped. $430,000. The good news, he said, is that they were stupid. They didn't hide it. They used the trust account like their personal piggy bank. The wire transfers to their vacation accounts. The direct payments to their credit cards. It's a clean, straight line of financial abuse. Of theft. So, what do we do? I asked. First, he said, tapping a paper. We filed a temporary restraining order. I sent a man to serve it to your father at his office an hour ago. He is not allowed within 500 feet of you. this building, or your new residence. Neither is your mother. Neither is your brother. My new residence? You're not going back there, he said. It wasn't a question. We have you in a long-stay hotel downtown. Fully paid. Security. Doormen. You will be safe there. Second, he said. The money. We have two options. We can sue them civilly. Or, we can pursue criminal charges. I froze. Criminal? What your father did to you, he said, gesturing to my face, is felony assault. What he and your mother did to your trust. That's felony grand theft. Embezzlement. Financial abuse of a dependent. They could go to prison, Riley. Prison. My father. My mother. I thought about it. I thought about the white couches. The silent dinners. The hiss of my mother's voice. The crack of my father's hand. The coldness of my brother's text. I don't know, I whispered. I just want to be free of them. Good, Rowan said. That's the goal. We'll start with free. We can decide on prison later. Right now, we freeze them out. He explained the next steps. He had already frozen their access. Now he would send a demand letter. It would list every single unauthorized purchase. It would demand repayment. They don't have that money, I said. They spent it. I know, Rowan said. They spent it on their house. Their cars. Their image. So, we will put a lien on their house. We will freeze their personal assets. We will make it very clear. The party is over. The Bank of Riley is closed. I sat in that office for 3 hours. I signed papers. I talked to a different lawyer about the restraining order, a kind woman who looked at my face with sad eyes. I had to tell her what happened. My father hit me. He knocked me to the ground. What did your mother do? She told me to get up and smile. The lawyer just wrote it down. When I left, I was in a daze. Rowan had a driver take me to the new hotel. It was a beautiful suite, bigger than my entire room at home. I walked into the bathroom. It was all marble and glass. I looked in the mirror. My hair was clean, but it was dripping. My face was a ruin. I was wearing a dead person's sweater. I felt something new. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't anger. It was freedom. It was a cold, sharp, terrifying freedom. I had no family. I had no home. I had nothing but a suitcase, a lawyer, and a trust fund that had been robbed. I was completely, utterly alone. And I had never felt more powerful. My revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't a scream. It was quiet. It was a signature on a piece of paper. It was a lawyer's letter. It was the click of a lock. I had been silent my whole life, because I was forced to be. Now I was silent because I was planning. A week later, I went back. I wasn't alone. I would never be alone with them again. The restraining order gave me one chance to retrieve my personal belongings. It was called a civil standby. Mr. Rowan came with me. He wasn't just my lawyer anymore. He was my shield. 2 police officers, including Officer Rivera, came with us in their own car. We pulled up to 124 Willow Creek Drive. The house looked the same. White, perfect, dead. The hedges were trimmed. The American flag was waving. My stomach was in knots. I felt like I was going to be sick. You don't have to go in, Mr. Rowan said, his voice gentle. We can have the officers retrieve your things. No, I said. My voice was firm. It surprised me. I'm going in. I need to. We walked up the perfect stone path. Officer Rivera knocked. My mother opened the door. She was in a silk robe. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. She looked at me, and her eyes filled with disappointment. Not sadness. Not regret. Disappointment. Like I was a bad investment. Riley, honestly, she said, her voice dripping with irritation. A police car? What are the neighbors going to think? This is a disgrace. Ma'am, Officer Rivera said. We are here to ensure Miss Hale can retrieve her belongings. Her belongings? My mother said with a light, false laugh. This is her home. She can come in whenever she... No, I said. My mother's eyes snapped to me. What did you say? This is not my home, I said. That's enough, a voice boomed. My father, Richard Hale. He walked into the entryway. He was wearing a suit, but his tie was loose. His face was red. He looked tired, and he looked furious. Riley, he growled. This game is over. You call off your lawyer. You apologize to your mother. And we will consider letting this go. This was it. The moment. Mr. Rowan stepped forward. He was shorter than my father, but he seemed to take up all the air in the room. Mr. Hale. Mrs. Hale. Good afternoon, he said, his voice as cold and hard as the marble floor. My name is Mr. Rowan. I am Riley's counsel. We don't care who you are, my father snarled. Get off my property. It's not your property, Mr. Rowan said. Not entirely. We'll get to that. He walked past them, uninvited, and went into the living room. The white couch room. He set his leather briefcase on the glass coffee table. Click. Click. He opened it. My parents are trying to lecture me, I thought. They think they are still in charge. First, Mr. Rowan said, pulling out a document. He slid it onto the table. This is a copy of the permanent restraining order. It was signed by a judge this morning. You are to have no contact with Riley. At all. Any attempt to call, text, email, or speak to her will result in your arrest. My mother gasped. Arrest? That's absurd. I'm her mother. You are her abuser, Rowan said, his voice flat. He pulled out a second stack of papers. A thick stack. Second, he said. This is a copy of the letter we sent your bank. Your access to Riley's trust fund has been terminated. My father laughed. A short, ugly sound. We know. You cut it off. A technicality. We'll have that sorted out by. No, Rowan said. You won't. Because this is a list of every unauthorized, fraudulent withdrawal you have made from your daughter's trust for the last 4 years. The $15,000 for Paris. The $35,000 for this kitchen. The $430,000 in total. All of it. My mother's face was white. Chalk white. We are currently in the process of a full investigation for financial abuse, embezzlement, and felony theft, Rowan continued. I can't imagine what your business partners will think, Richard. My father's face went from red to a sickly, pale gray. You can't, my mother whispered. That's family money. It was never your money, I said. It was the first time I had spoken to them. My voice was clear. It didn't shake. It was my money. And you stole it. Just then the side door opened. Aiden. He stormed in, wearing his college sweatshirt. He had his phone in his hand. What is going on? He yelled. My scholarship just got revoked. Some guy called and said the family fund was in dispute. Dad, what's going on? And tell them to leave. Tell Riley to sign the papers for my car. I had to give the deposit back. He looked at me. His face was twisted in a pout. He looked like a child. Aiden, my father said, his voice weak. Not now. No now. Aiden yelled. She's ruining everything. Dad said it was fine. He said the trust money was for us. He said it was for the family. He was right. That's what they had always said. I looked at Aiden. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel hate. I felt nothing. Just a deep, cold pity. He was them. He was a small, weak copy of them. That's the problem, Aiden, I said quietly. He stared at me. What? He said it was fine, I repeated. That's the problem. My father put his hand on a chair to steady himself. My mother looked like she was going to faint. They weren't afraid of the police. They weren't afraid of the restraining order. They weren't afraid of me. They were afraid of the list. They were afraid of the money. They were afraid of the investigation. They were afraid of losing their perfect, fake, white-walled image. That was all they had. And it was crumbling. Riley, Mr. Rowan said. Go get your things. I walked past them. My father didn't move. My mother didn't speak. Aiden just stared. I walked up the stairs to my old room. It was just as I had left it. Plain. Beige. A prison. I packed one suitcase. I took my clothes. I took my laptop. I took my journals. All the stories I had hidden. I took the one picture I had of my grandfather. I walked back downstairs. They were all still in the living room. Frozen. Let's go, I said to Mr. Rowan. I walked out the front door. I didn't look back. I got in the car. I felt the sun on my face. The real sun. The door to the White House closed. I heard the click. I was free. I didn't watch their world fall apart. I was too busy building mine. I couldn't stay in the fancy hotel forever. It felt like another cage, just a more expensive one. I wanted something mine. Mr. Rowan helped me. The trust fund, even with $430,000 missing, was more than enough. I was 22 years old, and I was for the first time in charge of my own life. I found a small apartment on Maple Street. It was on the 3rd floor of an old brick building. It was not fancy. The floors were wood and they creaked. The windows were big and the paint was peeling. The kitchen was tiny. It was perfect. I went to a second-hand store. I bought a blue sofa. It was a little faded, but it was comfortable. I bought a Real bed, not a twin, but a queen. I bought white sheets and a thick, soft comforter. I bought a yellow tea kettle, a color my mother would have hated. I bought a big new lock for my door. I put my name on the mailbox. Riley Rowan Hale. I added my grandfather's last name. It felt right. While I was building, they were collapsing. I didn't hear from them. The restraining order was a perfect, beautiful wall. But I heard about them. The town wasn't that big. And Mr. Rowan kept me informed. First, my father, Richard Hale. He had to take a leave of absence from his company. That was the official story. Mr. Rowan explained the truth. Our lawsuit, the one for the $430,000, had put a lien on all his assets. The bank froze his accounts, pending the investigation. He couldn't make payroll. His business partners were furious. The legal issues were all over the local business journal. He wasn't the powerful builder anymore. He was a liability. He was a man being investigated for stealing from his own daughter. His image was gone. Second, my mother, Victoria Hale. She loved her social life, her charity boards, her garden clubs, her parties. Well, the news spread. Whispers. You know the Hales? Richard is in legal trouble. Misuse of trust assets. Can you believe it? Stole from his own girl. She was asked to step down from the hospital charity board. It's not a good look, Victoria. Her friends stopped calling. The invitations stopped coming. Her perfect social world vanished. She was a prisoner in the big, white house. Just like she had made me. Third, Aiden. My golden boy brother. His scholarship was gone. It had been provided by one of my father's business partners. A favor. When my father became a liability, the favor was withdrawn. Aiden couldn't afford the tuition at his expensive private college. He had to drop out. I heard, through Mr. Rowan, that he was trying to get a job. But he had no skills. He had no patience. He had no fire. He just had a name that was now, suddenly toxic. The house on Willow Creek Drive, the perfect showpiece, was in foreclosure. They couldn't pay the mortgage. Not with my father's accounts frozen. The bank was going to take it. Did I feel good? Did I feel victorious? No. I felt quiet. I would wake up in my new apartment. The sun would stream in through the big old window. I would make coffee in my yellow tea kettle. I would sit at my small wooden table. I still worked at the library. I needed the routine. I liked the smell of the books. You look better, Riley, Mrs. Kemp said to me one day. She didn't say, I'm sorry. She didn't say, you were right. She just said, you look better. I feel better, I said. And I did. I was still in my creative writing program. I was finishing my degree. One afternoon, I was sitting at my table. The apartment was quiet. It was a good quiet. A safe quiet. I opened my laptop. I had been writing, but I had been writing fiction. Stories about other people. Now I was ready. I opened a new document. I stared at the blank, white page. I typed a title, The Cost of Silence. Then I started to write. I wrote about the White House. I wrote about the silent dinners. I wrote about the beige walls. I wrote about a girl who was forced to be invisible. I wrote about a brother who was a golden boy and a mother who was a queen. I wrote about a father who was a king. I wrote. Our house was a lie. I wrote for hours. I wrote until my fingers hurt. I wrote until the sun went down. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a witness. I was a survivor. I was a writer. My new life is made of small things. It is the sound of my key in my own lock. It is the smell of my coffee in the morning. It is the way the sun hits the wooden floor in my apartment at 4 p.m. I wake up each morning, and for a few seconds, I am afraid. I am back in the beige room. I am waiting for the sound of my father's heavy footsteps, or my mother's sigh of disapproval. Then I open my eyes. I am in my own bed. In my own apartment. I am safe. The fear goes away. It is replaced by a deep, quiet peace. I finished my degree. My story, The Cost of Silence, was my thesis. My professor said it was one of the bravest things she had ever read. It was published in a small literary journal. I got a check for $200. It was the first money I had ever earned that was truly, completely my own. The lawsuit against my parents is over. They didn't fight. They couldn't. The proof was too strong. They sold the house. The bank took most of the money to cover the lien. They had to give back what they stole from me. It wasn't about the money, but Mr. Rowan said it was about the justice. They moved away. To a small, rented condo in a different state. I do not know where. I do not want to know. Aiden, I heard, works in a hardware store. I don't hate them. I thought I would. I thought I would be filled with a hot, burning anger for the rest of my life. But I'm not. Hate is an emotion. It's a connection. It's a rope that ties you to the person you hate. And I am done being tied to them. I don't hate them. I am simply done with them. They are not my family. They are not my problem. They are just people I used to know. They are a story I have already written. My silence is different now. For 22 years, my silence was a prison. It was a tool they used against me. Be quiet, Riley. Don't make a scene, Riley. Smile, Riley. My silence was about their comfort. Now my silence is my choice. It is the quiet of my apartment as I read a book. It is the silence of my walk to the library. It is the silence in my head when I sit down to write. My silence is no longer a sign of fear. It is a sign of power. It is mine. Tonight, I am sitting in my small apartment. The window is open. I can hear the sounds of the city. Cars. People laughing. I finished my book. My first book. It is my story. All of it. I pour myself a glass of wine. It's cheap, but I like it. I hold the glass up. I look at the reflection of the city lights on the glass. I think about that. Night. The party. The string lights. The champagne. I think about the toast my mother made. The toast that broke my life open. They raised a toast to my obedience. I whisper to the empty, quiet room. I smile. And I raise my own glass. I raise mine to my freedom. If you've ever been dismissed, underestimated, or silenced, hit like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Your voice matters here.